You'd have done better with him running in this election. But you guys don't see it that way, do you?
Well, I think that since the election happened and sitting with it for a couple weeks, I know why Kamala Harris lost. I think that what I said was premature. And I think it's a combination of what all the gentlemen around me are saying. I think it's like a middle ground in life, which I think is often the case, which is I think Professor Lichtman is right that there was a lot of disinformation pushed by a lot of bad actors in the right wing. But I think that Cenk and the gentleman beside
hang on, Harry.
Damn, can he finish his point? Damn, Piers, he didn't say anything yet. Calm down. What the fuck? He barely got into his point. This is going to be the misinformation era, whatever they call it. 2015 to 16 to 2026. I hope we can get away from this. Somehow, something has to happen. But that's going to be the misinformation age, and I can't wait for the documentary that comes out where they just collect all of the crazy shit people believed and pushed and got so much attention put onto it that just was absolutely unfounded, unreasonable, and unreal. It's gonna happen, bro. You know what I'm saying? Drop a like, leave a comment, let me know you're in here. We finna have fun tonight. What damn, y'all? Logic's back with another one. Today we're gonna do another video from our boy, one and only Piers Morgan, but it's gonna be a little bit different than what he usually likes to do. It seems like he has a panel full of people on the left, so it's gonna be a lot of people on the left arguing with one another, I'm assuming, and of course, Piers is gonna cheerlead for Trump as much as he can because he doesn't have anybody else to do it for him. But I figured it'd be interesting to see a bunch of people on the left actually going back and forth. So before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like, comment, sub. If not one, then all three. But let's get into it.
As racist, sexist, transphobic, Islamophobic, a Nazi, blah, 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 blah. Did they just over-egg the devilment souffle and just in the end play into his hands?
Well, I think they thought, based on the numbers, that this was going to be an effective form of attack. And I think it was for the base of the party. But I think that there were a lot of people who were attracted to other parts of Trump. And I think the whole macho man thing, it worked. You were talking about a rainbow coalition. No, it wasn't a rainbow coalition. But I think that you saw white men still go big for Trump. You saw the Latino men. And I think that's the big story of the election. Latino men suddenly went towards Trump, and there were some black men. I think it was a male thing, and I think, again, the idea that he said offensive, vulgar things about women, the fact that he is, and, says he wants to be an authoritarian, that's all true. But I think a lot of the men said, you know what, we like it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, Professor Lichtman,
look, Piers, you would think that would come with a negative connotation. Be like, I think you're right that men was just like, I like this macho man that says fuck women and all that shit and sexual abuser and all that. And men was like, I like it. And Piers like, I think you're right. Yeah. Like, you don't care. You're not going to critique that a little bit? What that says about men in America?
You correctly forecast the result of 9 of the past 10 US presidential elections, but not this one. Like most pollsters, I have to say, very, very few people predicted a big win, other than I might, if I may be so modest, I did. I went on Fox News
Piers
10 days before with Brian Kilby and said, I think he's going to win big.
Own ego.
But actually, most people thought we'd be incredibly tight and it could go either way and so on. But it wasn't that at all. Why do you think Trump is so difficult to poll, which is clearly the conclusion I would draw from this?
Well, I am forthrightly willing to admit I missed this election. I still think I actually had 10 out of 10 before. I think I was right about 2000, but we're not here to litigate that. I still think it's a pretty good record. Now, I think two things are operating here. Number one, I was incredibly critical at the time of the spineless, cowardly Democrats openly and viciously trashing their elected president and their elected nominee right out there in the open.
I do think that plays a part. Like, they was trashing Joe, but all that does is tell you that the Democrats was more willing to criticize their side and they want to be proud and happy of their pick. But like he said, there's an argument to be made that hurt the Democrats at the end of the day. But I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. It's like, you're just supposed to not say shit. I guess it worked for Trump, right? They just let him get away with all the bullshit and he won. So maybe that is a strategy.
I have never seen that before, and I've studied American politics since the founding, and that tainted any nominee. And they're now taking no responsibility for that. They're blaming everybody else.
Wait, they are taking responsibility. Well, they're not taking responsibility for the part of talking about him out in the open, I guess, but they definitely know that he should have dropped out, and Joe should have dropped out.
Well, they look in the mirror,
Well, before,
the Democratic
he shouldn't
Party
even
is going to
announce
be
running
in
the second
trouble.
term.
Secondly, why did my keys miss? Because my keys are based upon the proposition that a pragmatic, rational electorate decides whether or not the White House party is governed well enough to get 4 more years. That was exploded this time by a new wave of disinformation that we've never seen before, in addition to the usual sources of disinformation. We had a huge change this time, a 300 billionaire, a guy who's richer than most countries of the world, who controls X, spreading vast disinformation. According to reports, billions upon billions of viewers saw his disinformation. People have a completely distorted view of the economy.
What was the disinformation?
Inflation is going up.
Let me pin you down on that, though. You say Elon Musk was spreading disinformation. Like what?
The fact that Piers is asking that just shows that he's not this centrist, this liberal-minded person that's down the middle and doesn't have a stake in these conversations or politics. How do you... That's the only people that align with the right think this Elon Musk wasn't spreading misinformation. I think it's kind of pathetic that he's doing that. You could go on X any day of the week and fucking Elon Musk, the owner of it, is getting community noted under it. He's spreading lies about voter fraud. He's spreading lies about things Kamala stands for by taking clips. He made an AI ad to dunk on Kamala and tried to like really present it as if it was a real ad paid for by the Trump administration. And he had to take that down because it was illegal. He fucking lied to his audience about giving them $1 million every day for people registering to vote. Those were handpicked people he knew who he was going to give the money to at the end of the day. He just constantly, there's been lies of Elon getting community noted all the fucking time, bro. What are you talking about? And then if he does it, of course, people that don't know as much or don't have access to as much information will run with it because this rich man that's on this platform is saying something. They're not going to think he's lying to them. He has access to probably more information than anybody.
Yes, he is spreading vast disinformation that's sunk in. Even people who think their own financial situation is pretty good think inflation is going up when it's been cut by 75%, that unemployment
but it's still
is
inflation.
a near high when
It's
it's
still inflation,
near
Professor.
a low.
On that point, see, that's interesting. You would say that's disinformation.
It is.
But the point is that inflation is still not zero. Therefore, prices are still going up.
Duh, Piers. Prices never go down. What besides maybe gas, and it still doesn't go down to anything that it used to be in any significant far back in time. But prices always go up. They're gonna go up. It's a rate that they go up, bro. What are you talking about? Prices are always gonna go up. We're probably never gonna see pre-COVID prices of anything. Maybe, I don't know, but they're not. Eggs ain't gonna go from being, if they $10 now, they're not going to go to fucking $6 anytime soon, if ever at all. Like, what are you talking about? It's not zero. Inflation will never be zero.
Therefore, people...
The only way you get inflation to zero is with a recession.
Yeah, but here's my point.
Obviously.
Here's my point.
What
Yeah,
the fuck are you talking
Democrats
about?
kept telling the American
And
people...
that is misinformation, because if you say inflation is going up and it's not, that's misinformation. Inflation has only gone down and gone down significantly. My bad, y'all. I had a sneeze attack. But yeah, inflation has only gone down since COVID.
People rather arrogantly, I thought, the economy's in really good shape. Meanwhile, inflation still exists. In other words, prices have continued to go up and up and up, albeit not at the same rate they were going up. But if
that's exactly what he's talking about, Piers. You're trying to fight on a non-point, and you're just feeding into the misinformation. He's telling you that inflation was not going up the way it was. It went down. People think that they're going up, and it went down.
If it wasn't zero,
As far
and
as
it wasn't,
inflation.
it was like 2.5% or whatever by the end, that is still
Yes,
inflation.
from 9 to 2%
So it's not
is rate.
disinformation to say
The only way
Americans are
you
still
get it
suffering
to
inflation.
zero is a recession, is deflation. That's ridiculous. Inflation has been cut by 80%, but it's not just inflation that people are wrong
Right.
about.
But do you accept
It's every
inflation means
aspect
prices are
of
still
the
going up?
economy.
Piers, shut the fuck up. You're not making a point.
Do you accept prices were still going up?
Of course.
Right. So
They
that's
all-
Price is always gonna go up. Why are you saying that like it's meaningful? It's about what people's perception of what's happening is. If they think if it's going up at a faster rate that's outpacing what they can afford, that's different than if it's actually not doing that, but people think it.
Always
point.
do, unless
But
you have a
not
recession.
that's not disinformation.
That's
then,
ridiculous.
is it?
Yes, it
By-
is, you
by Elon
idiot.
Musk,
And it's
that isn't
disinformation about every
Fucking
other
Piers.
aspect of the economy as well. Disinformation about undocumented immigrants, like they're the bloodthirsty killers. They are the most
Yep.
law-abiding segment of our society,
Yep.
according to numerous studies, including by
They commit less crimes at a much lower rate than fucking Americans that's born and raised here. Like, and they're acting like all these immigrants are coming in by the millions and just savaging and ravaging all these communities. And it's just like, no, bro. No.
by the Libertarian Cato Institute. They commit crimes, including violent crimes, less than half of that of Native Americans. And they don't drain our economy. They are the main
They help stimulate the economy. If we don't have those immigrants, a lot of shit will fall apart.
mainstay of the agricultural, construction, personal service,
Yep.
hospitality industries. Studies show you
Yep.
will drive the economy into a recession if you go through large-scale deportation of immigrants, and you will sweep huge numbers of U.S. citizens because all the databases used to identify undocumented immigrants are fundamentally flawed. You can't have a pragmatic electorate under these conditions, and the mainstream media is utterly feeble. It spends 20 times more time on meaningless polls within the margin of error than it does
Like
telling
them polls, when they talk about polls, I don't even pay attention to it. I ignore that shit. I don't understand polls because it's like I don't know anybody that's ever been polled or questioned by any of these things. So when they say that stuff, like the polls say this, and I'm like, are y'all like asking people who are they gonna vote for? Like, I don't know how it works. I would love to learn that. When I tried to look it up, I couldn't find how they get them numbers. So if anybody could point me in a direction in the comments, that would be great, because I want to understand how they go about polls. But I never paid no attention to them. I was like, all we're gonna do is find out how people voted when the numbers come in. That's it.
truth to power and indicating the consequences of this election.
But it
And
is
it's
okay.
being taken
I'm going to
over
come
by
to
billionaires.
Okay, I'm going to come to Cenk. I mean, Cenk, the biggest deporter in American presidential history was Barack Obama, who deported over 3 million people. This
And
idea,
he's not running for president. Shut the fuck up.
this idea that Trump is going to become some outlier in terms of mass deportation, the great mass.
But didn't Obama's number come after a full 8 years? Trump is trying to damn near do half of what he did in 8 years, do it in like a day, according to let him tell it. But he's trying to do it in his first year of office. He's trying to match Obama's numbers after 8 years.
deporter was actually a Democrat president, Obama, by
And
a
a lot
long
of people may disagree with that.
way, by the way.
And maybe he did it in an effective way, but Trump wants to get rid of everybody, no matter what they're doing.
So this idea of like disinformation, I think some of it was disinformation, but it's I think the
Some
idea
of it.
that this election was only won through right-wing disinformation. I think
He didn't say nothing about only. You're sticking on this and you're fighting on it, and it's a point that you shouldn't even fight on because he's right. But not only that, he didn't say that's the only reason. He said it was one of the reasons that this went the way it did. And I do agree. I think it was a big reason. I think it's over 50% of the reason why it went the way it did.
afraid. I view that as a total delusion by the Democrats. Again,
It's not a delusion.
Yeah.
It's not a delusion. Why the fuck do you think, if X is one of the biggest platforms that people tend to fucking go receive their news from, people are moving away from mainstream media more and more. And people go to X, and the fucking owner of it, the richest person on earth, is lying on it, and Donald Trump is lying on it, and JD Vance is lying on it. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen? Everybody that supports them is just gonna spread those lies too and build on them. Why do you think that doesn't matter at all? He didn't say that's the only reason.
I totally agree with
reason.
you. I'm sorry, but I totally disagree with Juan and Professor Lichtman. Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion.
Cenk just doesn't like anybody that isn't progressive enough for him. It is the voters. I'm sorry. I'm not a politician. I don't give a fuck. I blame the voters. Kamala definitely could have ran a better campaign. The Democrats could have handled this whole situation a lot better. All of that shit matters, but I also put blame on voters that's just uninformed and voting off of vibes. Like, you can't vote off of vibes. Like, people probably watch me and think I'm like this staunch Democrat, liberal, leftist. I'm not none of that. I'm not beholden to the Democratic Party. I'm not beholden to all left ideologies. I don't fuck with the extreme shit on the left at all. I'm not going to vote for a Democrat because they're a Democrat. I'm going to vote where I think my vote makes the most sense and what benefits me. And a lot of people voted against their own interests, and let them tell it. They'll tell on themselves because they're going to say shit that's either not true or something that they just did not understand when they voted for Trump 9 out of 10 times.
But Juan, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea.
It's not a terrible idea.
Look,
It's
I
the fucking
debated
truth.
Professor Lichtman before.
It's the fucking
I told
truth.
him his theories about the keys were absurd.
blame
I
the
was right. He
voters.
was wrong.
They're not
I said he'd
informed
lose
and
his
they voted.
keys.
No, you were
Couldn't
not.
find-
I'm gonna put up the stat again. Most people that voted for Trump, they view politics at a way lower rate than people that voted for Harris. They were more uninformed voters that voted for Trump than Harris.
Right, and
before
I
the
was not
election.
wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Who won, brother?
You should not be
Who
taking
won?
cheap
Who
shots
won?
at me.
Who
You
won?
want to make your
You
point,
live
make your
in a
point.
total
Don't make it
world of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me. So
Yeah, right,
quiet with
right.
your personal
yeah,
attacks.
come find out again.
Make whatever
Okay.
point you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't
Look,
make
you,
it
you
personal.
don't know anything. You don't know
You
anything.
attacked me
You
personally.
You're so deluded.
All right. I've only
Okay.
been a
Can I
professor
just-
for 51 years.
On this program,
published
I've never been
13
able
books.
to finish a
How many
thought.
books have you published? No, because you're personally
Yeah.
attacking me again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to
Okay,
stand
but
for
brother,
personal
you got it
attacks.
wrong.
Say
you were
whatever you want.
preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just...
Why is Piers going at him like that just because he was wrong about his prediction? It's a prediction. It's either you're going to be right or you're going to be wrong. It's 50.
finish a
Call me
goddamn thought
stupid.
ever on this show.
No, not if you're
Okay,
personally.
well,
I
you proved
admitted
it.
I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
I just say it's
What
great
kind
to
of
see
nonsense
you
is that?
Democrats
Yeah, I
all
know.
getting
Who
along
taught
so
you
well.
manners?
It's lovely to
You
see a
wonder-
Can I
post-election
finish a
harmony as you all
goddamn
come
point?
together.
Alan is clearly an old man. It's like, you need to respect your elders, but Cenk is doing too much. Like, why are you talking about him being wrong and as if it's like this horrible thing that he should have never done? It's a
Hey, Alan,
right now.
shh. Hey, Alan, you deserve
He
a tall glass
folded
of
his
shut up,
arms. He
dude.
is
So can you
pissed.
just shut up for a second and let someone who knows what
Not
they're doing.
if you're
so right,
personally
Piers.
attack
You're
me.
so
Let
right.
someone that
Okay.
knows
Okay.
what they're doing talk. Cenk, you gotta chill, bro. Cenk, stop, bro. Stop. God, he is doing too much.
So
I will not sit
He's doing
here
too
and
much.
stand
So-
for personal attacks, for blasphemy against
You
me.
sat here and shitted on him, and now you're mad because he's defending himself. You didn't have to shit on him. All he did was make a prediction and tell why he think they lost. You probably finna give some stupid reason was, oh, you guys aren't progressive enough. That's why you lost. When really extreme progressive ideas aren't even that well received.
You don't need to do that. You don't boost your
blasphemy
ego
against
by
you? Who the hell are
attacking
you?
me
Are you
like that.
Jesus
Just
Christ,
make
you
your points.
loser? Okay, can
Make your
I
points.
just give the correct answer for once?
Why he just-
Okay, here we go. So, guys, you're blaming disinformation. There was
Please, Cenk,
disinformation. There
stop.
was the
You-
cats and the
He's gassing himself way too much.
dogs nonsense. The points you're making about undocumented immigrants, I agree with, Alan, okay? But that didn't cost the election. The main disinformation was about how the election was going to be rigged. And it wasn't rigged. It was dumb. They won it easily. There was no need for that disinformation. You guys are missing the whole point. The people who are at fault are not other people. It is the candidate, Kamala Harris. The previous
What? That's part of it. Yes, Cenk, part of it. Yes, Kamala's campaign is part of it. The Democrats' approach to this whole election cycle, part of it. Misinformation, part of it. I'd argue most of it. Literally, people are sitting here arguing against things that they want that Kamala was trying to give them, and they voted against it. It's just pure stupidity.
candidate, Joe Biden, Democratic Party, Democratic leadership.
Yeah, the economy, man. Everything costs too much. Meanwhile, I'm going to go vote for the guy that's going to tariff everything that comes into this country, and that's going to make me have to pay more for everything. But yeah, I'm going to vote for him because the economy sucks right now. What the fuck are we talking about?
You guys don't want to admit that they're the problem. They're the cancer in the Democratic Party. So
this is Piers just getting off his pet project. Like, I hate establishment Democrats. Oh, they all need to go the establishment, anti-establishment. That's all he's trying to get off right now. And he feels vindicated because they lost it, so he can say like, yeah, this is why it's happened. When if they won, he wouldn't be able to say that if Kamala won, which was very plausible. And if a few things was changed here and there within that campaign and within this misinformation campaign on the right, that it's not like everybody's talking about this mandate. It was not a mandate. He's probably not even going to get 50% of the votes in the country at the end after everything is counted. And even if he does, it's too fucking close to call it a mandate. A few 100,000 votes in 2 to 3 states would have changed this. Between 2 or 3 states, a few 100,000 votes is not a mandate. No.
blindly lash out at the voters, at information, at social media, and you want to shut down anyone who disagrees with you. That's not the correct answer. There are three wings of the Democratic Party. There's the establishment wing that the great majority, almost everyone on television supports and kisses the ass of and does propaganda for. That wing has led to disaster. They lost to Donald Trump twice, nearly lost to him 3 times. And then the other wing is called the progressive wing, but those are two different sets of people. In the progressive, so-called progressive wing, what you have is the identitarian left, the people who do what the right wing would call woke politics and identity politics, and that is disastrous. That's what the trans ad was at the end, and it cost us. The most popular part of the Democratic Party is the populist left. That is the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign. That part says, let's do super popular economic proposals like paid family leave, higher minimum wage, universal health care, public option. Let's do all of these things. And the establishment goes, no, our corporations don't want that. Our donors don't want that.
But see, like, I'm not even saying he's necessarily wrong about things that people want. I don't know if that's enough to get enough people out. Like, he's saying that's the most popular part of the left wing. But if that was the case, people like Bernie was still, it wouldn't have been no stopping Bernie if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't have been no room to do Bernie dirty back in 2016. Like, it would have been unanimous and understood that there's no way we can run anybody besides Bernie. If that was the case, that it was going to bring enough people out to vote for that. I think that the very progressive left isn't as big as he thinks it is. I agree with a lot of the policies that Bernie was riding with and that he just named, but I don't think that's a shit ton of people to the point where they'll be okay with Donald Trump voting versus just voting to get somebody closer to their ideals in. If I was that far on the left, there's no way that I'm going to just sit back and not vote for Kamala simply because she's not Bernie Sanders. That idea doesn't make sense if you're that far left. It literally makes no sense because even it seems like the left even agrees she's one of the most progressive candidates to ever run. Like, and she has some good policies like Medicare for fucking people that's taking care of they old relatives at home, like home care for Medicare for home aid, whatever. That's great. She's incentivizing people to build families with a child tax credit and the first year of life, that first $6,000 for their first year. She's incentivizing people to build families. Like, the right always talk about family values and shit, but they ain't do shit to help incentivize people to keep building families. Y'all worried about birth rates and shit, yet you're not giving anybody a reason to have a family. You want to tariff everybody and do mass deportation. You're just finna fuck everybody over, whether they have a family or not.
So we'll just do identity politics. And maybe identity politics will unite the left. But it didn't. Identity politics led to disaster. It was a poison within the Democratic Party.
You talking about Hillary? We talking about 2024, bro.
Used, ironically, by the establishment Democrats because they didn't want to talk about popular proposals that we have because their donors hate those proposals.
Let me bring in Harry. Harry, you tweeted or posted on X on November the 6th. Kamala Harris's speech was amazing. Graceful, strong, hit the right tone. She's a fantastic leader and a great role model. No idea how she lost to Trump. You're a bright young guy, Harry. I've interviewed you several times. Right? You know why she lost. And that speech, in a way, to me, was the perfect illustration. She basically said nothing. She talked about billions of stars and the moonlight and shining lights and all that. There was nothing there. There was no meat on the bone. No.
Are you kidding me? That was a good speech. Sorry, Piers, you don't understand metaphors. Like, what the fuck? She's talking about billions of stars. It was a fucking metaphor. Sorry, Trump doesn't know how to use them. Sorry, Trump can get up there and talk about Arnold Palmer's dick and you'll laugh, but she's making a fucking eloquent speech and using metaphors and analogies, and you just think she's saying nothing. That was a good concession speech. I think it did exactly what a concession speech is supposed to do, is keep people motivated and not be so despondent to what just happened. But the fact that you can say that about her but not about Trump is the biggest issue. Every critique of Kamala can be put on Trump and it'll be way worse. That is my issue. You can critique Kamala all you want, but make sure you're giving Trump that same energy, because whatever you critique her on, he's done it in spades and worse.
No substance. And that was her problem throughout the whole campaign. She had 100 days to tell America, here's how I'm going to fix all your problems. Instead, she did the Hillary Clinton playbook. After promising us joy and sunshine, immediately pivoted to Trump's a Nazi. They're all fascists. They're all disgusting. And by the way,
she's never called him a Nazi.
Famous entertainment friends
or
who are all
Hitler
going to surround themselves on me on stages. Didn't work for Hillary. Didn't work for Kamala. And at some point, young guys like you who are the future of the Democrat Party, you've got to wake up and smell the cappuccino. You need a candidate that can resonate. I mean, Cenk's right. The Democrat candidate who has
Cenk is the person on the right in this panel. It's like, did they ask him to do that?
Resonated with the public was Bernie Sanders, right? You'd have done better with him running in this election. But you guys don't see it that way, do you?
Well, I think that since the election happened and sitting with it for a couple of weeks, I know why Kamala Harris lost. I think that what I said was premature. And I think it's a combination of what all the gentlemen around me are saying. I think it's like a middle ground in life, which I think is often the case, which is I think Professor Lichtman is right that it was a lot of disinformation pushed by a lot of bad actors in the right wing. But I think that Cenk and the gentleman beside me...
Damn, can he finish his point? Damn, Piers, he didn't say anything yet. Calm down. What the fuck? He barely got into his point.
There was disinformation from the left as well.
Oh my God. Disinformation from the left as well. Well, then maybe that's what helped Trump win too. Maybe the disinformation on the left helped Trump win and the disinformation from the right helped Trump win. But stop. Stop. And whatever the fuck you finna say is probably pales in comparison to the shit that they did on the right.
Calling him a Nazi.
But Piers, it's not...
That's not disinformation. That's literally just an extreme opinion. That's not disinformation. Calling him a Nazi. The man was over there calling Kamala a Marxist, a communist, a socialist. How the fuck is she all those things while trying to provide people benefits to have a fucking business? And you calling her a Marxist and a socialist and a communist? What the fuck, Piers? You okay with Trump doing that, but you sitting here talking about they called him a Nazi. Bro, get the fuck out of here.
Hang on.
It's
Let me finish my point.
Let me finish my point when you didn't let Harry finish his. You're responding to his unfinished point.
From the left as well. When you keep calling him a Nazi...
But Piers, it's not
Hang on.
It's
Let me
not
finish
the
my
same
point.
level.
When you keep calling Donald Trump
and that's what
a
it says. He didn't even say it's non-existent. It's not at the same level of disinformation. And you finna talk about calling him a Nazi. That's not disinformation. That is an extreme opinion, and it's not even a popular one.
And a fascist and all these things. And
he called her a fascist. He kept calling Kamala a fascist. The only time Kamala called him a fascist is when his own staffers called him one.
Supporters, Nazi sympathizers.
All
that is total disinformation.
The people that called Trump a fascist before any prominent Democrat leader did was his people and his vice president. They called him Hitler. They called him a fascist. Kamala only called him a fascist the moment somebody that was close to him worked with him. And she said, well, if he says that, and then based off the assumption from what I see from this man, I agree.
Because he hasn't murdered 12 million people.
And that's not all Hitler did.
Not going to.
Well,
and by the way, you all know that. So the disinformation is on both sides.
I disagree. I disagree with calling Donald Trump a Nazi or calling him Hitler. But I want to be clear that it was his own former advisors who called him that and likened him to Hitler. Kamala Harris never got on a stage and said, oh yeah, Trump's Hitler now.
Right.
She just alludes to the fact and brought up the fact that his own former advisor said that. But I also want to make the point that I think that Cenk and the gentleman from Fox News is right when it comes to the economy. I think we were not great when it came to messaging on the economy. The benefit that Trump had is that he could put his slogan on.
That's the thing. I think they had better economic plans, but they did not articulate them well enough. I don't know why it was so all the lying they did on Kamala. I don't know why she couldn't do a better job of combating it. It's kind of, when you look back, it's like, damn, you didn't. I don't know. It seemed like nothing. I don't know. It's a lot that played into this shit, and I don't think any of it would have made it matter. Trump just has a spell over these people.
A yard sign. He could say, Kamala Harris, Democrats, high prices, Trump and Vance, low prices. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, was tasked with explaining, okay, here's why inflation went up. Obviously, it's not Joe Biden and me. It's because of external factors. Here's why gas prices went up. Obviously, it's not me. It's external factors. If you're explaining, you're losing, as the famous saying goes.
Yeah.
So that was the uphill battle that we had. And I think there was kind of a perfect storm that led to Donald Trump being elected. And I think that I disagree with Cenk.
You're missing something else. You're missing something else, which is all the culture war stuff that we kept being assured by the
She didn't run on no culture war stuff.
left. Nobody cared about. No one cares about the trans debates, right?
No one
Nobody cares
cares.
that biological men are wrecking.
Y'all, the fact that you're sitting here talking about that means everything that they did worked. Piers, nobody on the left is talking about trans people, bathrooms, sports, none of that shit. Nobody's talking about that. Y'all are acting like this is the biggest issue on earth when it's so irrelevant to what the fuck is going on in the world today. Nobody gives a fuck. He finna probably bring up the shit with the trans boxer. She was fucking, it was a fucking, was she from? Argentina? No, I forgot where that woman was from, but it ain't America. He finna blame 2 fighters from other countries, and one of them is apparently intersex, which is a different issue than trans, and bring that up as if that has anything to do with American politics at all. And we ain't got no control over what the fuck the Olympics do. So I don't know why he keeps trying to blame Iman Khalif situation on Kamala Harris. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Women's sport. Nobody cares that they're invading women's personal spaces.
Nobody
and so on
cares.
and so on.
Nobody went to the voting booth like, I'm voting against trans people. Like, most people was not in the voting booth thinking about that shit.
No one cares that kids are being put through mutilating surgery before puberty.
Kids are not being put through mutilated surgery before puberty. That's not happening. This is the disinformation, and you fucking fell victim to it. Point me to one child that had fucking surgery before puberty. Please point them out to me. Please. Unless you're talking about circumcision, which is the furthest you're going to get with this conversation. There's no child having gender reassignment surgery before puberty. Stop it. Stop it.
And we kept being told nobody cares about this. Leave them all alone.
Nobody
It's
cares.
transphobic.
Nobody
I'm not
voted on that
transphobic.
shit.
I wanted trans people, as I still do, to have fairness and equality in their lives.
God,
exactly
this nigga
the
gonna
same
give me a
as all of
fucking
us on this panel.
migraine.
But when you keep telling people it is fair, on the one hand, Democrats said we protect women's rights on abortion. On the other hand, we're absolutely fine for women's rights in sport to be.
Piers, the fact that you think you can sit here and compare abortion rights to trans people in sports is absolutely absurd, and it's exactly why Alan said this is a disinformation campaign. This era, you know how they have like all those ages and eras within history, like the fucking I don't know the names. I'm not a historian, y'all. I don't know the names. But y'all know what I'm talking about. There's eras and ages within history that they call. And just like we have generations of us as people, you know, millennials, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, you know, and baby boomers. This is going to be the misinformation era, whatever they call it. Like probably like from 2016 to we ain't gonna get out of this shit till probably 2026. 10 years, 2015 to 16 to 2026. I hope we can get away from this. Somehow, something has to happen. But that's going to be the misinformation age. And I can't wait for the documentary that comes out where they just collect all of the crazy shit people believed and pushed and got so much attention put onto it that just was absolutely unfounded, unreasonable, and unreal. It's gonna happen, bro.
Introduced at this ridiculous altar of biological men who are now trans women competing against women and beating them. You can't be both. So the public went, this is, and you're shaking your head, but look, the New York Times did a report about that ad, which the Trump campaign did so successfully and repeatedly.
I saw it.
You know, Kamala's for they, them, Trump's for you. They reckon it moved the needle by 2.5 points. It was the most successful and effective 30-second ad in modern political history. So people did.
That's how you know people were driven by vibes. The ad worked, cool. Kudos. Y'all got that shit. Y'all got it off. But all y'all did was get off some bullshit because this is not a real issue that's affecting regular Americans on a day-to-day basis. If you went to the voting booth voting on some trans sport shit versus Kamala, who's trying to stimulate the economy and bring people out of that hellhole of the middle class that you struggling in, that we struggling in, and you voted on trans shit, yes, you fell for it. They got your ass.
Care. And the Democrats were just
You can say people, even if you grant people care, they care about an issue that's not affecting them and not affecting most people.
deluded.
That's
it seemed to
insane.
me.
And if you
Because
care
most of
more
them-
about trans shit than abortion, that's a bigger problem we need to talk about.
You must realize this issue of trans athletes in women's sport is wrong. You all know it's wrong.
And
For
that's
some
the
reason,
that's
you
the
wouldn't
thing
get off
too.
that
You're
train.
talking about you all
And
know it's wrong. Most people on the left don't even agree. most people on the left don't feel like I personally think that trans people that want to engage in sports at a high level, they just shouldn't. I just think we don't have time to be trying to figure that shit out because that's such a small number of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just such a small number of people that is so irrelevant that it's just like, just don't let, you just can't compete. Especially, I mean, maybe there's a world where they could figure out like how developed you are in the gender you want to identify as. Like, I think usually if you transition after puberty, you cooked. I think that should be the blanket. If you transition after puberty, I think you're just cooked. I think that should just be the end of the conversation. You can't compete at a high level if you went through puberty already. You're cooked. And even if you want to go past it and you let people be in sports before transitioning, if they transition before puberty, it's like, how many people are trans? Then after that, how many people are trans that play a sport? And then after that, not only do they play that sport, are good enough to compete at a high level. That is a percent of a percent of a percent, bro. Like, this is not a real issue. There's people allergic to grass. There's probably the same amount of people that fucking compete at a high level that's trans. And not even just trans. It has to be specifically trans women because trans men don't stand a chance at a high level. They don't stand a chance in any physical sports. So we're talking about strictly trans women that have transitioned and are good enough to compete in this sport. That's probably the same amount of people that's allergic to grass. I don't see y'all out here trying to get rid of grass. It's an issue, but it's not a real issue that nobody even needs to give a fuck about. Them people got to figure that shit out on a case-by-case basis and leave all this shit alone. Nobody gives a fuck. I'm not sitting here trying to advocate for trans people to be in sports because that's not a real fucking problem that's relevant.
And that delusion was one of the reasons that you lost so badly, I believe.
But Piers, to Professor Lichtman's point, that ad in and of itself contained misinformation. The ad was saying, "Oh, Kamala Harris wants to pay for prisoners' transgender surgeries."
All right, she said it a few years ago, but she said it.
But wait, hold on. In the New York Times also reported that this took place under Donald Trump's presidency as well, because depriving a trans prisoner the right to get gender-affirming care is, Cenk, it's a law, it's a constitution, is against the Constitution of the United States, preventing cruel and unusual punishment. Because if somebody is deemed medically necessary to receive care, no matter what that care is, and you ban it or say no, you can't get it, that absolutely falls under cruel and unusual punishment. So Donald Trump did the same thing, and that's an example of the disinformation, or at least the lack of context that Trump's campaign.
Do you accept, Harry?
No.
Do you accept that this?
Yes,
so-called,
Cenk, I'm sorry. Yes.
But do you accept the so-called culture war stuff that
Hold
I
on,
would
you don't
frame
know
as
what
the
I'm
kind of very, very far left, progressive woke stuff? That I've seen a lot of Democrats in the more centre part of the party coming out now and publicly saying what I was saying for a long time. Apparently, Bill Clinton kept warning them internally. David Axelrod has come out and said, we've got to stop this. Joe Scarborough did a big monologue about it on Morning Joe. At some point, you've got to recognise that most average Americans just found all that stuff complete bullshit. And that's one of the reasons
nobody gives a fuck
you've
about
got to move
it.
on from it. If you come back with another woke progressive platform in 4 years' time,
What do you mean move on? Nobody's on it but the right. The right is on it. Nobody on the left is giving a fuck about this shit.
will be out of office potentially for 4 more, 8 more, maybe 12 more years. I promise you. Take it to the bank.
So, Piers, I agree to a degree, but not in the way that you're framing it. I think that we do have to move on from a lot of the culture war stuff. I don't like
but
the word
not the
woke,
way you're framing
I
it.
understand the context of you using it. I think that, yes, and to some degree, we have to move on. But by moving on, we shouldn't throw people under the bus. We shouldn't say, oh, trans people are the reason why, or LGBTQ plus people are the reason why. That's not the reason why. It's just that the culture war stuff came off as very kind of gross to some Americans. They really didn't like it. So I agree to a degree, but not in the way that you're framing it.
Okay, one, let's talk about race, because it seems...
Can I get in here?
Well, one second, Shane. One,
because
hang on.
Okay.
One thing, I'll come to you, Shane, don't worry. One, on the issue of race, many people found it extraordinary that a guy who a lot of people think is racist beat a black woman. And that a lot of people that helped him win turned out to be a lot more black men voting for him than first time, and a lot more Latinos voting for him.
A lot more black men. It's like fucking nominal. It's not that. Stop, bro.
Than the previous times. How important, if at all, was race in the end? Or was it actually a case of a lot of black and Latino people went, we don't care about all that stuff. What we care about is jobs, cost of living, illegal immigration, and so on.
Well, I think everybody cares about jobs, cost of living, inflation, and so on. And by the way, I don't think you're right about those numbers. I think there were more black men than black women who went towards Trump. But remember, they're still a small segment of the overall electorate. The big shift, actually, as I said, Latino men. was a huge shift, and they're also not that big a section of the electorate. The big electorate in this country still is white people, and overwhelmingly white men went for Donald Trump, and white women who I thought, and I think a lot of pollsters thought, given the abortion issue and the success of abortion as an issue that favored Democrats in 2020, but also after the Dobbs decision in 22 and all the referenda, the white women again voted for Trump. But so you talk about, is this a race issue? The race issue may be that white Americans were overwhelmingly in support of Donald Trump. And if you look at black America as overall black America supported Kamala Harris. Overall, Latino America supported Kamala Harris, even Latino men who had that big shift. So to me, race is a part of the story because, in America, the demographics are creating anxiety. And I think the anxiety is most evident in terms of white America seeing that there are more black people, but also Latinos as the second largest group in the country now, and rising number of Asians. It plays out in so many ways. And I think Donald Trump is just expert at exploiting, that racial anxiety to say to people, these Democrats are playing identity politics or whatever. I think the identity politics overwhelmingly is played by Donald Trump with white America.
Cenk, you wanted to jump in.
So look, I'm going to address what Juan's saying too. But first, Harry, I know that the same policy was under Donald Trump, but that's not disinformation. That's for our candidate to go out there and clarify that and to fight back and to make her case.
That doesn't make it not disinformation. That just means that she should have fought against it, which I agree. That's why I said, I'm like, I don't know why. Like he said, when you're explaining, you're losing, or whatever the fuck that quote is, like when you're on the defense having to explain shit all the time, then you're losing. And that's a big problem with the left. They're always defending and explaining. You got to go more on the offense and make the right explain shit. And I think if Trump had to explain a lot more of the shit that he was doing, he would have looked bad, because every fucking interview he went on, nobody got to the heart of the shit that he was doing. Like, nobody brought up the fucking elector scheme, which was way more pressing than January 6th. And in and of itself, the elector scheme was insane. That should have been the topic of everybody's conversation. The elector scheme was crazy. So,
but she refused to make her case. She
I don't know
barely
why
did
she didn't
any
defend
interviews. They were all incredibly structured to protect her fragility. She barely did any interviews. They were all incredibly structured to protect her fragility.
Yeah, don't say she barely did. Like, they keep trying to treat Kamala as if she had the same amount of time to campaign as Trump. Like, for her to only have had 3 months to fucking campaign, she did a great job, in my opinion. 3 to 4 months. And I think she did the best. That was a really good campaign for only campaigning for 3 to 4 months. And she didn't do it. She didn't hardly do any interviews. She was pushing them bitches out when she was able to. She had to come up with proposals and plans and policies and shit. She had to do it. Then she had to be able to convince people that it was good. And then she had to figure out how she's going to answer difficult questions, because she's going to get difficult questions. Like, she couldn't just hop out the first day and do interviews. That's not even realistic. And come on, let's be real.
Ego. All she did was talking points. Donald Trump's out there, sometimes like a maniac, but a lot of times looking like a real person at McDonald's and with the garbage truck. And our side goes, "Oh, that's terrible." No, it's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
Those are great photos.
We don't give a fuck. Obviously, we don't care if he's at McDonald's, because we don't like him anyway. A McDonald's photo op is not going to make me vote for Trump. Like, what the fuck? That was for his people. That wasn't for nobody that don't want to vote for him already. It's about getting people that's going to stay home to vote for their side. It's not swaying people of the other side. That's never it. And him doing that McDonald's shit was not making anybody vote for him that wasn't already.
Is a corporate talking robot. That is not helpful. We are misdiagnosing
Like me, I stayed home. I would have stayed home in 2020 if Kamala was not Joe's running mate. Joe didn't do anything for me. Now, in retrospect, he did a great job as a president for 4 years, in my opinion. And so there's that, but I wasn't inspired by Joe. I wasn't inspired by Hillary. I voted for Obama both times. I didn't vote for Hillary in 2016. I didn't vote at all. And Trump, you just kind of was like, well, whatever. If Trump is president, we'll just see what the fuck happens. And then he did what the fuck he did. And I said, absolutely not. Well, granted, like I said, Joe didn't inspire me, but once he picked Kamala, which I felt like he would, I had liked Kamala when the 2020, you know what I'm saying? She wasn't popular, but I actually had liked her even then. So I was like, okay, she is VP, I'm a vote. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's how I'm telling you, I'm not beholden to voting Democrat no matter what's going on. Like, you have to give me a reason to want to vote for you. And so Kamala was my reason then. definitely my reason now, on top of Trump being a piece of shit as a president.
Case here. So
And
when
person.
on these
Let me
identity
jump in
issues,
here.
the Republicans set traps. No, hold on. The Republicans set traps for us. So the great majority of the country is in favor of trans rights, and I'm 100% in favor of trans rights, and I bet you that the entire panel, including Piers, says that as well.
Yeah.
But when you go beyond rights and you say, hey, they dug and dug, they tried to find, hey, how about banning them from the military? Trump tried that in the beginning. It wasn't popular. Banning them from bathrooms, not popular. But they dug until they got to sports, and that was winning ground for them. And what I said is, guys, get out of there. It's a trap. You don't have to fight on that. You're falling into their trap.
It's not
And
that you
what
don't have
happened
to
is
fight on that, but when you got people like Pierce bringing you on their show and be like, trans sports, it's like, well, I'm supposed to be like, no. Like, if I don't know anything about, say you already uninformed on the topic, you can't just spitball it and try to just say shit, then you don't understand any of it. And if he cares so much, he probably has more information on the topic than you. What do you expect them to do at that point? I don't really see anybody on the left prominent like talking about trans sports shit. I think it comes up and people spit out opinions without understanding any information behind it, without knowing anything. That happens once the situation arises, but nobody is at home caring about getting trans people in sports, bro.
Piers can attest to is everyone else on the left scream, transphobe, fascist, Nazi. Let's dig in on our least popular position. That was terrible politics.
Totally agree with
You know
that.
what? I love you, brother, but it ain't about
Piers,
race.
I
It ain't about
totally
race.
agree.
You know what?
Latino men
Cenk-
didn't vote for, hold on. Latino men didn't vote for Donald Trump because all of a sudden they like white people or orange people. They voted for him based on
Orange people.
economic issues. Democrats only think in terms of identity, but that's not working anymore. The number one identity people care about is not Latino, black, or white. It's class. Are you going to do something for the average man, or are you going to sit there and play identity politics so you avoid the more important questions that your donors don't want to talk about that actually helps the average guy, like paid family leave and higher wages?
Okay, Professor Lippman,
I don't get it, Cenk. I don't get it. The reality is, like, Bill Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, they stood up for Obamacare. They stood up for fair pay. These are populist issues at the heart of the Democratic Party. You go after Democratic Party donors and the establishment. Democrats stood for those issues, brought them to the table, and won. And Democrats, if you look at what Joe Biden did in terms of bailing people out during the virus and saying that we have to have infrastructure and building, that helped. That helped working people in this
Why is
country.
Cenk shaking his fucking head?
Lies were told about that history.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, Professor, I know you've got to leave it, so you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah. First of all, let me add a quick fact. There was no massive switch of black voters to Donald Trump.
Thank you.
Donald Trump got 13% of the black vote, 11% the last time. That's 2% of a very small segment of voters. So that's one of the big myths of this election.
Thank you,
Second
Cenk.
big
I
myth
mean,
is
Pierce keep trying to act like there was this big ass migration of black men to Trump, and there's a lot of black men. And it's like, bro, it's like 17 black men a state. Like, stop. It's not that deep to act like it's just this huge wave of black men voting for Trump this time around.
is that hindsight is 2020. We have a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks who, after the fact, are telling us what Harris should and should not have done. And half of them are saying she lost because she was too progressive. She was too open to the charge of being a radical, a socialist. The other half have said, of course, she lost because she wasn't progressive enough. We heard that from Cenk today.
Right.
It's all sports, talk, radio.
But saying she was too progressive is actually insane. That makes no sense. She literally avoided all of the far left shit, all of it. And she did it well, and people still putting it on her. So this tells you how fucked up the media is. They're like, identity politics, trans people, culture war, pronouns. Kamala didn't talk about any of that shit at any point in this entire 3-month campaign. It's such a short window. We got all of the frame of reference to look at with ease. So why is it that it's so easy for them to act like she was just out here being this identity politic police, and she never did it at any point of her whole campaign? Fuck all this 2020 shit. Fuck anything she was talking about then. We're talking about what she ran on now. Y'all let Trump change his mind every fucking Thursday. Y'all let Trump be a criminal. Y'all let Trump get away with lying. I think Kamala can change her mind in 5 years. Like, I think that's a little bit reasonable here.
Without the entertainment. There is no way to know after the fact what she should or should not have done. If she had only done this or that, it would have made a difference. That's just hot air with absolutely no proof. The difference that I bring to the table is a track record of successful prediction, based upon how American presidential elections have previously worked as pragmatic decision-making on whether or not the White House party has governed well enough. And then my analysis is based upon what's changed, what's shattered the pattern of 160 years of history. So I have a base for my analysis. I'm not just doing Monday morning quarterbacking. Cenk, you need to learn some manners. Your act is getting really
I
thin.
mean, brother, I said what was going to go
Cenk's
wrong. It
being
did
rude
go wrong.
for no reason. Like, I guess I don't know where Allen lies politically. I believe he said he's more right leaning. I think, if I'm not mistaken, but Cenk is just being rude for no reason.
I was right. You were wrong in this election spectacularly so with your so-called keys, and now you come and tell us not to Monday morning.
Unlike you, I'm
quarterback?
willing to admit when I'm wrong.
Are you ever going to learn the lessons?
Can I just ask,
Because what I'm worried about,
hang
guys-
on. Just ask, for those who have no idea what the key thing is all about, why are you flashing keys?
Okay, because this brother said that he had these keys and they were going to determine the outcome of the election, and all the keys were rigged in favor of incumbents. And I tried to explain to him, no, there are things outside of the keys. We literally had a debate, and I asked him, what if Joe...
Yeah, like misinformation, Cenk. You just dismissing it. If you're sitting here saying there's things outside of Allen's keys, misinformation should count in that, right?
Biden, this was back when he was defending Joe Biden, which now seems unconscionable. That what if Biden came and punched the baby every single day? Would your keys still hold? And he said yes. Okay, well then you're an unreasonable person.
I was right.
But what I'm most worried about is not the past.
Let me
it's the
explain
future.
why. I was right.
I mean, listen to him.
About
I mean,
Biden.
you have no idea how absurd you sound. Okay, but guys, the most important thing is not between me and Professor Lichtman. God bless you, brother. I know you did a lifetime's worth of work, and I feel a little bit bad about it. The reason I'm saying it is not to rub it in now. It's because I'm worried that in the next primary, you're going to tell people to vote for the establishment Democrat. That all of you on this panel are going to go, oh no, vote for the corporate robot, vote for the corporate robot, and that's going to destroy this party. That's why I'm fighting
give me a
back so
name.
aggressively.
Give me a name.
No, vote for the populist left.
Give me a name.
Well, in the old days, it easily would have been Bernie Sanders.
Who
Now
is
he's
it now?
too old. So look, I would start considering Sean Fain, head of the UAW, Sean O'Brien, head of the Teamsters, Jon Stewart. Go outside of politics. Almost everyone in politics is already corrupted. Find someone who is not corrupted and just for the average man.
Harry, you're shaking your head, but I mean, Jon Stewart, if he could be persuaded, I would imagine could be very good as a candidate.
At this point, I felt that way about Jon Stewart beforehand. When I saw him in one of them hearings with trying to get a bill passed, I was like, damn, this man ain't playing. Like, he was out there putting in work. I've been like, I wonder if Jon Stewart ever would consider running for president. I thought about that years ago. I never really tried to push for it or took it serious, but it crossed my mind when I saw him in that hearing to get that bill passed.
No, I don't take objection to Jon Stewart. I just think we have some people in the Democratic Party who are very talented right now who could be the
Give me
Democratic
some
nominee.
names.
Governor Shapiro won Pennsylvania by like 20 points. Governor Wes Moore in Maryland. How much more connected to people do you need other than like Wes Moore, who's great? Raphael Warnock from Georgia won a swing state and is a senator from a swing state. Gretchen Whitmer, who had a trifecta in Michigan for the first time in a long time. There's really talented people in the Democratic Party who are elected officials right now, and Cenk can shake his head all he'd like, but these people are winning in swing states overwhelmingly.
Who would you like
And if
to
they
see,
have appeal,
Harry?
I think any of the people I just mentioned, I'd love to see. And there's plenty more. But
Why
I think
did he
we're
just
gonna
name-
I'm pretty sure.
Why would he name all these people and then Piers says, give me a name after that, after he just named everybody who he thinks could run? And then Cenk is rolling his eyes because they're all establishment because he's not getting what he wants. I think there's an argument to be made about not having an establishment candidate. I don't think that's a bad idea in and of itself, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have people that maybe establishment Democrats that still have their own views and ideas of things and they want to get in there and make change, but they just want to do it in a way that's conventional versus unconventional. And that doesn't mean it won't work because they try to go about it in a conventional manner. You probably have more room to sway people if you do it in a conventional manner. We'll just have to see. We don't know. The Republicans have no standards of anything, so they don't give a fuck about nothing. They're going to let Trump get in here and let Matt Gaetz get away with being appointed and probably get his position because they're not going to release the evidence on his case. He can just appoint people that have no experience in any type of politics because they just think there's like, oh, we can do this and everything will be great. Like, it's just Republicans don't give a fuck about anything. They don't have a standard. And whether you agree with that or not, that's on you. But just because they do it don't mean it's like, let's just run amok.
Well, I would lay good money now that J.D. Vance will be the Republican nominee in
I'd say that's probably a good bet.
Because
I think they could do better than J.D. Vance too.
he's actually he in direct contrast
they got
to
people like Nikki Haley, like hell, fucking DeSantis. Like, what is wrong with them? Like, JD Vance, whatever.
Mr. Waltz, who I thought was a total disaster. I thought JD Vance started with a lot of negativity, but became a real force for Trump.
How was Tim Walz a disaster when he was the most popular person out of all four of these people running, the presidents and vice presidents? Tim Walz was more popular than everybody by a long shot. Kamala, Trump, and Vance.
Particularly in getting young men to come out and vote for him. So I suspect he'll be the nominee, but we'll see. Professor Lippman, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it.
He was the least liked person out of. He says Tim Walz is a disaster, the most liked person in the whole fucking campaign cycle of 2024. And JD Vance, the least liked person, is who should run for president. Give me a break.
We're not going to be joined
Nobody
by,
likes JD
Vance, to our
Vance,
panel,
for real.
the Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, and first making his uncensored debut, the host of the Kyle Kalinske Show, Kyle Kalinske. Well, Kyle, welcome to Uncensored. We're trying to get you for a long time. Let's have a little chat with you before we get reaction from the panel. But why did the Democrats blow it so badly, and what do they do to avoid this happening again in 4 years?
I mean, the simple answer is that Kamala Harris kind of codes as a technocratic status quo manager, and Trump codes as a change agent. And so, I mean, to sum it up as simply as possible, voters just thought he's going to deliver more change, she's more of the same, and they broke for him.
Who would you like to see run the party now? I mean, what's the future of the Democrats looking like to you?
Jon Stewart. I've been pushing that since the day Trump won this time around, because what we need is, honestly, a controversial, charismatic celebrity might make all of the difference, but it's that mixed with Bernie Sanders' policies of actually delivering social democracy for people, raising their pay, getting them health care. I think that's the magic stew. And honestly, I think it's a shame that more people aren't talking about the controversial, charismatic celebrity portion of Trump being so successful, is that you can't keep the cameras off him. He's entertaining. Love him or hate him, you can't stop watching him. And so we need to sort of mirror that on the left. And I think the way of doing that is Jon Stewart.
But I would add to that what Bill Maher's been warning for a long time to liberals, speaking as a liberal himself. And I'm pretty much where he is politically, I think. I feel the same way. And I know you've been keen to say, look, Kamala didn't mention any of these woke issues, whatever, but she's very much associated with a lot of those woke issues. She's certainly voted in line with a lot of the more progressive stuff, like allowing transgender athletes in women's sport and so on. So she's seen to be a progressive who then moved rapidly to the center when she got the nomination, and it was all too much of a screech for people, probably on both sides. But this whole woke ideology, I don't mean the original woke ideology of raising awareness for racial and social injustice. I mean, the way
I feel like he only mentioned that because Harry brought up that he doesn't like how Piers uses the word woke, because Harry probably knows that woke has been co-opted by society to mean something that it hasn't. I'm not going to go over that again. I've mentioned it in about 2 or 3 other videos, but y'all know,
a kind of new form of
hopefully y'all know where woke came from, and it's not the way it's used right now.
Fascism, where the far left just basically want to cancel, shame, and humiliate absolutely anybody who disagrees with them about anything. Do you accept that that has become a problem, a stick to beat the party with, which actually really damages them electorally?
No, I think Kamala ran basically the platonic ideal of a non-woke Democratic campaign. She never mentioned race. She never mentioned gender. She never mentioned trans people. She never mentioned pronouns or Latinx or cancel culture. She repeatedly stressed that she was going to represent all Americans. She ran to the right on the issue of the border. She talked about owning a gun. She ran on freedom and patriotism. And so when you put all that stuff together, I simply don't know what people are talking about when they say she's
they're talking about her record.
Those things at all.
They're talking about her record. How about Trump's record? 34 convictions, felony, sexually liable abuser, fucking scammer, Trump University scam, not paying people that he does business with. He has a fucking reputation for it. 30,000 plus lies since he's got into politics. Eating cats and dogs. They're giving the FEMA money away to illegal immigrants. I didn't lose the 2020 election. Elector scheme, inciting January 6th. What about that record? But you're talking about what Kamala said in 2020, where she said she wanted to ban guns and changed her mind because it's not popular and not a good idea. And maybe she's just able to take in opinions and form a new one that's maybe better, possibly. Her record, though. Her record.
Hang on, they're talking about her record as vice president of the Biden administration, where they never stopped talking about this stuff in nearly 4 years. So you can pretend when you get the nomination, whoa, I'm a centrist, and I'm a gun-toting Rambo, by the way, as well.
Yeah, that's what she said. When they asked her, do you have a gun? She said, I'm a gun-toting Rambo.
To all you Second Amendment people. But actually, if you judge her on what she said and did in 4 years, she was a progressive left person. And to pretend otherwise is to just ignore what went on in that period.
What I'm much more concerned about is not Democrats being woke or Democrats censoring speech. I'm much more concerned about Trump's record on those things. So, for example, Trump said he wants to punish flag burning with a year in jail. That's against the First Amendment. He sued CNN for $475 million for calling election denialism the big lie. Before he was president, he sued Bill Maher for $5 million over a joke. He said he wants to open up the libel laws. He called for jailing journalists who report on the Supreme Court abortion ruling early before the decision.
How many of those things did he do in his first term?
Pro-Palestine protesters.
How many things?
Why do they always say, what did they do what did he do in his first term? Do y'all not realize Trump fucking won a term? He was content and happy. He lost and couldn't, and his ego got in the way. And I ain't gonna say he's a changed man, but you saw the nastier side of him that couldn't take a loss and couldn't take a no for an answer. So he denied it to this day. 4 years later, he won't accept that he lost the 2020 election. And it fucking corrupted his fucking brain probably to where he's like, fuck all this. I'm going to do what I want. He's the same person, but you're seeing the ugly side of him after his first term. Stop with this whole he didn't do it his first term shit. He's mad as fuck and wants his get back now. I'm not saying he's going to like turn the entire country upside down and it's the end of the world. But I'm saying he's clearly going to attempt to do what the fuck he wants.
How many of those things did he actually do in his first term? Because it seems to me another problem.
And then that don't even help your argument. So basically you saying he just talk a bunch of shit and never follow up on it. And is that the president you want? Because what are you voting for at that point if you're going to give him the pass of, well, he said all that shit, but he ain't do it though. So why do you want somebody that's blowing air up your ass?
And he does this brilliantly, by the way, with the left. He sucks you in because he just shoots them a hip and he says stuff that crosses his mind or whatever. And rather than pick him off on stuff he actually does, you all go completely nuts every time he opens his mouth and says something a bit crazy. And if I was advising the Democrats, I'd be like, stop doing this. You're literally playing into his trap every time you do this. Just pick him off on the stuff he actually does. Then you got a better chance.
All right, I'll do that. Here, ready? He gag ordered the EPA from telling the truth on climate change. That's deeply anti-free speech. He arrested and charged 6 journalists with felony rioting. He did not pardon Assange. He did not pardon Snowden. He did not pardon Daniel Hale. He wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy the U.S. to deploy our own troops against George Floyd protesters. These are all things that are actually on the record, things he actually did. And the thing that I find incredibly frustrating is that nobody talks about it. Trump magically gets a pass for things he actually did.
He doesn't get
Democrats
a pass.
Get held to a super high
standard. He does get a pass. He does get a fucking pass because everything he just named, nobody talks about in the media. It's funny enough, I don't even know about some of that shit. So that's what's crazy. I don't know about all that shit he just mentioned, but the shit I know don't even get mentioned enough in the media. The elector scheme, they didn't press him enough on that. That is a big fucking deal. Every intricate part of it, either they don't know or maybe they come in and saying don't ask about the elector scheme. They asked about January 6th, which is easier for him to escape from. He said, I said peacefully and patriotically or whatever the fuck he said, peacefully protest. So that's his scapegoat for why he's not that responsible for January 6th. But he don't talk about the fucking elector scheme. He don't talk about the fact that he's lied over 30,000 times since he's been in politics. Like, what the fuck?
Those things I just
Trump has had.
Wait.
Hang on. Let me answer you. Trump has had the most unrelentingly hostile media.
And not only that, the fact that they always try to act like he's this little innocent lamb that's getting targeted for no reason. Why do y'all say that as if people don't have a reason to criticize Trump? Y'all saying it like he's innocent and doesn't deserve being fucking hounded in the media. And even with that hounding, they can't even address the real shit for whatever reason. We don't know. Or nobody gives a fuck about it for some reason, which is scary.
The mainstream media that is largely staffed by liberals, we know this, because the way they all go nuts when their paper wouldn't come out and endorse Kamala, and they all resign, so they reveal their true colours. Cable news the same, MSNBC, CNN, you can fire a harpoon around their newsrooms and you wouldn't hit a conservative, right? So let's just get real about the way mainstream media is made up. I've worked in it, and there are very few conservatives, and that is part of the problem as well. And I just think that ultimately, if the Democrats are going to try and make themselves electable, they've got to move wholesale on now to a far more effective way of campaigning. And it can't just be every time Donald Trump speaks, mass hysteria, shaving your head, going on TikTok and posting videos of yourself screaming and saying you'll never have sex with a Trump supporter again. All this stuff is insane.
How about just telling the truth?
That's insane, but storming the Capitol because you lost an election isn't. That's within the bounds of reasonability. But being on TikTok screaming that's just insane. It's how could you carry on like that? How can you shave your head or say you're never having sex with a Trump supporter? Oh, that's so beyond the pale. Why are we being so dramatic? Yes, they stormed the Capitol and broke in and threatened to kill his vice president. We get that, but how dare you scream on TikTok?
Wait. How about just telling the truth? That's a radical idea, right? When was the last time you heard that Trump arrested and charged 6 journalists with felony rioting? Who talked about that? Did CNN talk about that? Did MSNBC talk about that? Did you talk about that? Nobody
talked. Those are what they claim is the left-leaning media outlets. They didn't talk about that.
About it. And the fact of the matter is Trump attacks Democrats 4 times as hard as they attack him.
Yeah.
So if anything, the lesson to take away is the opposite. Democrats should get more arrogant, they should get more aggressive, and they should tell the truth more.
Come on, Kyle. You know that would be utter
No, that's the truth.
No, it's the truth, because like he said, I didn't even know about some of the shit he said. So what the fuck?
You know what? You wouldn't be as good at it as he is, because he does it with humor. You lot all do it with these incredibly
I just love how Trump gets a pass for any and everything.
I'm outraged by absolutely everything
Stewart.
faces. And it's like, if you all just chilled out a bit.
Why do we have to chill out? If people really think he's a threat to democracy, why are you asking people to chill out?
No.
What the
Have
fuck?
a bit of a
That's why I
laugh.
said John Stewart.
Death by mockery. Well, actually, you're right. John Stewart gets exactly the right tone. On that, I agree with you.
Because he laughed at
because
he only agrees with him because John Stewart didn't make a big deal out about the island of garbage Puerto Rico joke. So that's the only reason I think Piers agrees.
Let's bring in Nina Turner and the rest of the panel. Nina, you've floated that Rahm Emanuel as a new DNC chair would be a good signal that the Democrat Party is only there for the donor class. Many other people would say that Rahm Emanuel's a very effective political operator. But actually, the Democrats need a bit of that muscle now.
I'm not here for the
Piers very effective at a cover-up. As we know, as mayor of the city of Chicago, he covered up the police murder of Laquan McDonald. He closed many
They're not getting anything done.
Yeah.
We need to get things done. And on the world stage, I could go on and on. But I think that with Joe and Mika, and I watched that show, so I'm no critic of it in that sense because I subscribe, if you will. But let me just tell you, it looked to me like they're...
Here, let me give you one example. If Democrats, for example, passed Build Back Better, the original Build Back Better that Biden and Bernie were trying to get through, that included paid family leave, childcare, universal pre-K, free community college, expanding Medicare, higher minimum wage, lowering all prescription drug prices, expanded child tax credit. If you got that through, I think this election very well may have been different and Democrats would have won. And I don't think dragging out, Taylor Swift or Beyonce or whoever else is going to make much of a difference because people like them for what they like them for. They like them for the singing. They like them for the dances. They don't really want to hear their thoughts on the marginal tax rate.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, I definitely agree.
Let me bring. I want to bring Nina back in.
I agree with Kyle on that, and I want to say, Cenk, thank you for that presidential endorsement. Who knows what 2028 will hold? But they overplayed their hand with celebrities. It's not that you don't want celebrities, but celebrities motivate the base that you already have.
Yeah, I think celebrities just bring out more eyes to what's going on. It's not that you're leaning on them to like get people to vote that may be on the other side or whatever. Like, I think so. They don't hurt you. Nobody's deciding to not vote for you because of a celebrity endorsement. All that celebrity doing is potentially alienating some of their base. If they have different beliefs, but they like their music or their art or their acting or whatever they do, all they're doing is putting their base at risk. When you endorse a politician or celebrity, you're taking a risk for your career. The politician, all they're doing is trying to get more people to see what's happening with that celebrity. You're not hurting anybody by getting celebrity endorsements. It don't work in the opposite way. It's either going to help or it's going to be neutral. You're not losing votes off celebrity endorsements.
This campaign did is they put too much stock in those celebrities. Those celebrities, just like my colleagues on this panel, just like myself, they only have one vote to give. Yes, they have influence, but you know who could have been a better influence on that race is everyday working class people standing by her side. Everyday working class people talking about how
they would have did is say they paid them people and they not real. Trump did it.
Harris walks a presidency, things would be different for them, that the minimum wage would be increased, et cetera, et cetera. That did not happen. So although Taylor Swift is popular, obviously she's not that popular because she absolutely did not move the needle. And this is no shade to her. It is just celebrities are good for the base. They are not necessarily good to move those undecided voters.
I mean, the other thing, Nina, the way
they did it too. I mean, the other thing I would say, the way they did it.
Moving the base matters though, because you got people that's probably not paying attention to politics, and then they be like, "Oh, Meg Thee Stallion, Glorilla, Beyonce. Oh shit, let me see what's happening over here." And then they hear something that piques their interest, and they like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna actually vote because I care about that." But maybe prior to they didn't hear about it. Maybe they didn't know nothing about it. So moving the base matters. There's people in the base that's like not tuned in until maybe they hear Glorilla, Meg, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, or whoever is speaking about this issue that may affect them because they just weren't in tune with politics, and that celebrity endorsement got them in tune. You never know. But all I'm saying is it's not taking away any votes at all.
The elitist way, it was the way they did it.
No,
too.
I agree with you. I just there's a different issue which Trump's nominee picks for the cabinet. I think I see a consistent pattern here. The one running theme of all of them is they're all good on television. Trump understands the power of television like no political candidate I've ever seen.
Look at the shit that Piers and I ain't gonna say the right. I'm gonna put this on Piers. Look at the shit that he thinks matters and is important. He knows these people are good on television. Why the fuck? What is that? What matters about picking your cabinet? Your cabinet not supposed to be on television anyway. So why in the fuck would that even be a factor into what you're talking about?
Because he's
all these people on TV every day.
TV guy. I did his Celebrity Apprentice show. I saw him at first hand. He loves the camera loves him, and he's great at the power of television. If you look at RFK Jr., you look at Tulsi Gabbard, you look at Marco Rubio, you look at even Matt Gaetz, look at all these people. What's the common theme? They're all good talkers, and they're good on telly.
Unqualified.
Whereas if I think, but of course, everyone can have their view about their politics, but they are good performers on television. If I try and think of a lot of Democrats in that camp who are good at articulating policy on television, I start to really struggle.
Who gives a fuck?
I do.
Joe Biden ain't good talker. He won president. Kamala's not the greatest talker. She was very close to winning. Again, they keep calling it a landslide. It was not a fucking landslide.
I think it's
But
important.
why are we giving Trump credit for optics right now, Piers? Piers,
Yeah, it's like
about
you care about that shit. Like, why? That's what I'm saying. Like, if politics is about optics, like they said, let the fucking Rock run for president. Let the Rock go against, who's the old person? Who's the old action guy? Jason Statham and The Rock. Let them run for president and we'll go from there. Because what the fuck are we talking about?
His picks is that they're virulent neocons. He picked Mike Huckabee, who's an end times fundamentalist Christian, to be ambassador to Israel. This guy thinks the rapture is going to happen and Jesus is going to come back in his lifetime.
You know why he picked
Brian
him?
Hook
You know why
for
he
State
picked him?
Department.
He picked him
because Trump's a neocon. That's why he picked him.
He picked him because he can, because he has such a thumping mandate on November the 5th. But
Nobody can. What type of response is that? Anybody can pick anybody they want. If Kamala was in there, she can pick who the fuck she wants. That's not what we're talking about. He's talking about picking people that he deems unqualified or just not somebody that's up to the task. Why are you saying because he can, Piers? That wasn't a response. You're just looking to fight for no reason at this point, and it's very obvious now.
Do you criticize that? But wait, do you criticize that though? Are you against?
I don't think
he said, are you going to criticize it? I don't know anything about this Huckabee guy, but apparently there's an issue with picking him. So Piers is like, because he can. What the fuck type of response is that? He can pick your fucking daughter to be on his fucking committee. What cabinet? What is that? What is that response?
Surprising. It's no. Well, it may
He
be
does
a
not
surprise.
have a mandate.
It may
This
be
is
a
the craziest
surprise.
talking point I've heard.
Well, hang on. Hang on.
It's
My
not a
point is the
mandate.
Democrats had such a terrible campaign with a terrible candidate. You reap what you sow. You've allowed Trump to do what he wants, right? So I'm afraid.
That is not. You see, every single person up here is shaking their head and looking at him crazy. Why are you saying because he can? That is not an intellectual response to somebody he is basically putting out to say this isn't somebody that should be appointed to this cabinet. And you're talking about he can pick him because he won. And it's like, yeah, it's y'all fault because y'all lost. How about you talk about the fact that he's picking people that they seem to all collectively, you can see by their facial expressions, agree that these picks are ridiculous. Even if they unhappy with the fact that Trump won, you can still pick people that's like reasonable picks for their positions.
Criticize his neocon
you're
picks.
missing it, Piers.
You criticize.
You miss it. They're all agreeing right now. Like, despite all partisanship, Piers, be real. Clearly, their point is the guy shouldn't be appointed or picked, and you're defending it because he can. What type of? You're not criticizing him for making poor choices. That's the issue, and that's why Cenk is like, you're missing it, Piers.
What I think. It doesn't matter what I think, because the truth is,
it does. Yeah,
Trump give your opinion day in and day out, especially if it's going against Trump. You gonna make sure everybody hear what the fuck you got to say if somebody says something against Trump. So for you to say it don't matter what I think, all of a sudden you want to retreat, bro? Stop.
Trump was very pro-Israel the first time round. He was always going to be very pro-Israel this time round. And you guys have allowed him to win with a thumping mandate. So the real point of this panel,
thumping mandate.
the real point of this blue on blue panel has been for
the
you to show some self-awareness that you've allowed all this to happen. I mean, Nina, I want to come back to you just briefly.
Self-awareness. He is picking neocons. Are you going to criticize
He's picking them because he's allowed to.
Or not?
He can pick
That
them.
is not a response. He's allowed to pick Homie the Clown for his fucking cabinet. Stop saying that. That's not a response.
Allowed to, but are you against it? Are you against
I'm
it?
against some of it, yeah.
You have nothing but criticism for Democrats, and you have no smoke for Trump, apparently.
Listen,
Right.
I regularly criticize Trump.
Two things.
No,
Piers,
come
on,
on, brother.
I would not.
Right now.
Let me answer the question.
Come on, Piers.
I would
Can be
personally
true.
not have picked Matt Gaetz to be the Attorney General pick. I think it's ridiculous, right?
Oh yeah,
but I
the
do think-
easy one. I think he shouldn't have picked Matt Gaetz. You know, that's ridiculous. The fucking alleged criminal. Yeah, he shouldn't have picked him. That's ridiculous. That's it. They ain't even bring up Matt Gaetz because I think Matt Gaetz is the obvious one that everybody has an issue with. I don't know about this Huckabee guy, which is who Kyle brought up. You didn't even address it. You're just saying because he can.
Things
You should call him up and tell him that. I know
he
you guys talk on the phone.
won.
I said-
So to the victor goes the spoils.
Yes.
We all can agree with that.
Yes.
The man won. The Democrats left the door, the windows open. They even
Everything
opened the
open.
door.
Come
He
in,
has
burglars.
won. However, there is a however to this. Yes,
So-
he does get to nominate whoever he wants to nominate in his cabinet. If the Senate is so upset with any of those nominees, then they can reject those nominees. That is likely not going to happen. The other side of this is true that some of the people that he is picking, and let's use Congressman Matt Gaetz for the prime example, he wants a yes man in the Attorney General's office. That is it, because Congressman Matt Gaetz has shown clearly that he will do every single thing that President-elect Donald J. Trump
But
tells
you know what,
him
Nina?
to
I have
do,
one question about that.
regardless.
Okay, I have one question about
regardless of whether
but
it's
look,
right or wrong.
Here's my point about that. Trump's being attacked for choosing loyalists. To which my response would be, should he have actively chosen disloyal people?
Why is it only loyalists versus disloyal? Do you really think that's how people view it? It's not about, yeah, let me pick people that are extremely disloyal. It's about picking people that's only loyal for the sake of loyalty without any morals behind it. It's just like, I'm going to listen to you no matter what you say or do. You should not want people to want that in anybody. I don't want anybody that's going to listen to me for the sake of listening to me and follow me because they're fearful of what I can do to them. That's not an example of a good leader.
I mean,
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm not attacking him.
That's
who
ridiculous.
What I
would, if
am
you're
saying-
president,
No, wait,
pick
wait.
people that might be
I'm
loyal
not
to?
You pick people that's responsible. There could be a level of loyalty, but you also want them to have a level of morality and honesty too. You don't want to just pick somebody that's you're going to listen to me because I'm me and you're scared of what's going to happen if you don't listen to me. What type of shit is that? That's ridiculous. And he's sitting here saying some stupid shit like this and with a straight face.
Attacking him. What
No,
I am
I
saying
can
is
answer
that
that
we got to call this
Yeah,
what it
no.
is.
Somebody
come
else
on,
talk.
Piers.
I feel like I just lit a tinderbox.
I'm not attacking.
Nina's almost on this same shit as Cenk, where it's like the left ain't progressive enough for me, so I'm gonna shit on the left. Meanwhile, I'm gonna let Piers get off this bullshit. Attack Piers for this bullshit.
Not why we're
I
attacking
said he
him.
has every right to pick these people, and
All
we
right,
have
can I-
every right to weigh in on his picks.
Yeah.
But the Senate has the final.
That is true.
say.
That is true. We've got to leave it there. Brilliant panel. Thank you all very much.
No,
Blue on blue. Blue on blue was good, but I do
Damn,
feel
you
like
don't
blue
let
on
me
blue.
talk, bro.
You've got to keep talking to each other because out of this unholy mess, the reality is you've all allowed Donald Trump to get back in with even
We
more
didn't
power.
allow it.
Even more power than he had
neoliberals
first time.
did.
So you
The
can all have a problem with me
corporate
about
Turner
it.
and John Stewart.
This is on
2028.
you. I actually agree about John Stewart. I think he'd be great. So get on the phone to John Stewart. Thank you to my panel. Appreciate it.
Man, Piers is just a fucking trip, and I like I said, at this point, I just truly don't know if he be serious or he's just getting those clicks in, just want to get people watching. Who knows? But regardless, man, y'all already know. I ain't gonna bring y'all the script. Y'all already know how I feel by the end of this video. Make sure you leave a like, comment, sub. If not one, then all three. And I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Peace.